Okay, so I'm sitting here inside of my room right now. Let's see if this. I just turned off the screen. I don't know if it's still recording. It is. Awesome. Alright. So. Oh shit. Okay. So what day is it today? Let's see. I don't know if the phone will show me what day it is because it's recording. Let me try and tab out of here. It's the 8th, a Tuesday of September. And so I'm trying to make some changes within my lifestyle. Okay, so usually it would be wake up, get on the computer instantly without having breakfast, get up at a late time, most likely, and get in front of the computer, play some games, namely League of Legends or any competitive game that's multiplayer that's really mindless to play, you know? I mean, it's mindless to a degree that if you play it, you can play it mindlessly over and over in repetition. Obviously, I'm not calling the game a mindless game to play, but I played it in a mindless way. Therefore, I'm adding to the game that it could be a mindless game to play, right? And I'm sure that I'm not the only one that just keeps clicking through the play button and clicking ranked on either CSGO or League of Legends, right? That's a given. And anyway, so I decided to make a change within my life where because I was going to bed at like 5, 7 o'clock, and I thought I might as well change because I wasn't too happy with what I was doing. I was getting up late and having decided not to go back to university for a year, for the next year, which is this year, with this coming year, school year, obviously, I thought I gotta do more. I have to do more. I have to not radically do more, but gradually, as with anything and everything that you try to start to do, you have to do it gradually, right? That's a given, that's obvious. So, that's exactly what I did. I decided to not go to sleep for an entire day, 24 hours, because that is the only way, well, that's one of the only ways that I know of that I can reset my sleep schedule, right? Is staying up 24 hours from the point I wake up till the point of the next day when it reaches 9 p.m. That's what I do, and it's the only way I know how to reset my sleep schedule. There are other methods. There's one more method, but it's in the same vein of it, which makes it easier to stay up 24 hours, or not even stay up 24 hours at all, by going to bed at a later point in the day. So you wake up at, let's say, 2 to 4 in the afternoon, 2 to 4 p.m. Depends on how late you went to bed. Like you go to bed at 10 a.m., you wake up at around that time. So you wake up at that time and then you stay up until you don't stay up fully 24 hours. You go to bed at around, let's say, 1 in the next day, 1 to 2, and then you wake up at around 9 o'clock at night, or 10, and you wake up late at night, and then that makes it easier to do then go to bed at 9, because you're setting your starting point further. It makes sense. I'm not going to dive into it. I'm just explaining very rudimentary explanation of how the second way, being very similar to the first way, it works. That sentence had, in my mind, it had commas in the middle. So it may sound wrong, the wording, but it's not, I think, at least. And so, basically, I decided to just reset my sleep schedule and see if I could keep it up. Because usually I would reset it, maybe it would last me 2 days, 3 days, maybe it'd last me a week. It wasn't just to see if how long I could hold it for. It was it was not to see, it was to do. It was, I was adamant about doing it. I thought, I need to do it, you know? It's just one of those, you hit one of those points, I'm sure everyone has, where it's just, where you're like, this is silly, this is stupid, I need to change. And and generally it's because something really, really bad has happened, and you're like, that's enough, I don't want it to happen again, it could happen again if I continue, therefore, I will change the way I'm doing things. So, that's what I did. I reset my sleep schedule, and now I've kept it up for about 3 weeks now, I'd like to think. I haven't been keeping count, but if I were keeping count, my guess would be that it would be about 3 weeks, because that's how that's how it feels. It feels like 3 weeks. Now, it's held its purpose. I mean, I at the start I was going to bed at 9 p.m., which is quite early, maybe too early for some, and I was waking up at around 5 a.m., 7 a.m. in the morning, which I was completely content with because I was doing nothing. I had nothing. I was not obligated to do anything, right? And that's where the ease of it came into me. Like, I had zero obligation to do anything on the following day or the following 4 days. Therefore, it was much, much easier for me to keep up that sleep schedule. And it felt sat in the back of my mind that the, not calmness of it, just it made me feel calm. And that basically helped me a lot in keeping it up. So, that's a radical, you think to yourself, something bad happens, as I was saying earlier. I don't know what I rambled on, but I'm just talking here. It happened, something bad happens, and you're like, I need to change, and it wasn't that drastically bad for me. It was just, this is an unhealthy style to live my life, right? I mean, it's one of very unhealthy things I do, so I might as well fix it, right? It is unhealthy in the long term. I won't get into it. It's on like a molecular level, unhealthy, and it's stretched over a very long time. So I won't exactly get fully into it. And so I decided this is harmful for me, and I need to stop early. And so I did. I fixed it, it seems, and I'm getting tired at around, 8 to 9, but I find a way to stay up until 10 or 11 or maybe 12, and I go to bed at around 11:30, which is fine, which is, I think, generally a normal time to go to bed at. So that's one of the conscious decisions I've made in my life to make it better, to make it more normal, I guess is a word I could use. I mean, I'm trying to make it a normal sleep schedule. What I was doing was very abnormal. That being going to bed at 7 a.m. all the time, months on end. That was abnormal. And not to say that having a normal sleep schedule is bad. That's not what I'm trying to say. So regardless, I don't know why I thought of that. I just did. Just to clarify that it's not a bad. Being normal isn't bad. Okay? So that's one of the conscious decisions I've made. The second one is I've been claiming for years. Well, not claiming, I've been thinking for years that this place, I could not do sport in. I could not exercise at this place because it wasn't the campus. So I lived for a very, very long time with my dad, and he was always on these, nice little secluded areas, like community areas, where there was just all-inclusive everything. There was a house for him, there was, a very, very close either sports center or a location where you could just very easily, almost in solitary, do your own thing. And my own thing generally was, and still is, walking and running and maybe lifting weights, right? And I'll get into how lifting weights can be or has been solitary. And so when I came over to my mother's, it was basically a city. It was everything that the campuses and it was everything where my dad lived was not, right? It was complete opposite. It was crowded. There was a lot of traffic. There was a lot of cars, noise, everything it was just screaming, I'm a city. I'm teeming with millions and millions of people. And that was just a subconscious factor to me. A subconscious factor that I couldn't do sport here because everything is so far away. Nothing's in walking distance. I mean, a lot of things are in walking distance, as I've found out today, or recently, after I fixed my sleep schedule. And I was so incorrect. I was incorrect about about what I thought. And the reasons why I thought this was simply because I just didn't want to waste my time going around a shithole, as I would perceive it. Now I don't. A shithole, built up concrete, because this is all my father's, influence on me, and I picked it up for the longest of time. In a built-up concrete city, I don't want to walk around it. I want to walk around lush green parks, and everything is green and trees and nice wind and no car noises, just silence and wind and birds chirping and shit like that. That's right. Because it was on the outside, it wasn't tantamount to what the campus was, because it's not. Obviously, where I live cannot be the campus. It is impossible for it to be the campus. So much money and investment and change would need to be made for it to be the campus. And it just simply isn't beneficial and won't. So therefore it's impossible for it to be the campus. And that's why I thought I could not do my own little exercise thing at my mother's house. And so I would associate this place, my mum's house, with unhealthy habits that would seem natural to me, i.e. staying up really late, eating loads of shit, and just pinnacle of undiscipline. I don't think undiscipline is the correct anti-word for it, but you just get my point here. I would associate this place with bad things, such as staying up late, eating loads of junk food. Well, not loads, just eating junk food, which would add to it being a place where, bad habits would be manifested. And just a place where it was complete impulse and indulgence, So this place was for me, where I could come back and just lounge around, laze around, and do nothing productive. But my view is obviously changing now. This is the whole point of me rambling on into my iPod at fucking 9:20 at night. Or in the afternoon, let's say. I don't think night is exactly right. But I was incorrect in the way I was thinking. See, this is the power of the mind that me and my father have been talking about for so long. And just a shift in perspective for me has allowed me to justify certain things, for me to do much easier, without regret, without, loathing something. Generally not myself, but something I would loathe. I would be like, just if this shit wasn't here, I would do it. That kind of everyone should have this feeling. Should have had this feeling, rather. So just the shift in perspective just wiped the slate clean. Everything was gone, and I have a different mindset whilst I live in this place. In part because my dad's gone now. He doesn't live where I live anymore. He doesn't live in Istanbul anymore. Excuse me, I do have a runny nose. So he doesn't live. So in part, him not being here has allowed me to just do new things. How cool is that? I think that's pretty cool. But when you think about it, anything is fucking cool. When you think about when you in depth look at something, it's really fascinating because it's out of the ordinary. It's something you don't do generally. It's just abnormal, therefore it's really, really fascinating. It's like, that's why when people say, when you think about it, because when they say, when you think about it, they're implying, and they're correctly, in my opinion, implying that you have not thought about this thing that is so common that you think about, or not think about, that it just occurs so frequently to you, but you don't think about it. When they say, if you think about it, it implies so much more than what you associate with a fucking just this funny phrase someone says just before they explain the very obvious and fundamental facts about something. But but in part, it's referring to your lack of ability to just, consciously think about something. And when they say, if you think about it, that's activating the conscious part of your brain to think, to say, to think completely differently. It's a paradigm shift in your brain. It's completely out of the ordinary, which is why regular things such as a leaf being blown can be so interesting. That's so weird. Right. Yes, so I began to think, and so I'm going to go back to when you shift perspectives and when you think about what kind of effect that can have. It's very, very, like, it makes my eyes water. It makes it water up. Makes my hairs stand on edge on the back of my neck, because I have, I'm consciously thinking about it and all of the effects that it could have or has had, and my mind wanders to places that it usually doesn't, And it's really fascinating. And that's what happens when you think about it. Anything. It could be anything, and it could be so interesting if you just did that. And so, when you think about, how I just, instead of looking straight, I looked to the left, and I saw, instead of seeing this concrete built-up jungle, air quotes here, you can't see it, my hands are doing it, concrete jungle, negativity, seeing it as a disability, hindrance of my ability to exercise. God damn this city, because it's hindering me, it's making me fat, blame. But when you just, instead of looking there, you turn your head and you look to the left, you look over there, yonder, not even fucking yonder, just whatever the word is to next to, not too far from all the negativity, and you see a different view of it. Mostly, probably positive. Maybe neutral. I don't know how it can be neutral. Or I just need to think about it, but I'm not. I'm going to think of the positive things, because that's what makes me happy. And that's what makes anybody happy. It's a positive thing. And so I'm going to turn my head to the left, because it's visual. Anything you can visualize makes it easier to understand, makes it more, I don't know, I want to say humane, because that's the first thing that pops into my head. It's a very human instinct to visualize things. That's why it's a very human instinct for something that would, it would benefit you if you visualized it first. It would give you a better understanding of whatever it is, just to visualize it. It may be completely wrong, but once you do see it, you'll be like, oh yeah, because some parts of what you visualize may match up, and you're like, yeah, I could guess that, I can imagine that, yeah, that's pretty cool. Because you visualize it, and, that's why in schools, visual aid for children, especially self-visual aid, where you're being told something, because fucking teachers aren't going to do this shit. You're being told something, and you associate it. Visual association is what I'm calling it, because I want to sound pretty fucking cool, and I usually don't. So visual association, like maybe something completely irrelevant, like numbers and maths, you give it a visual counterpart, and it just becomes so much easier to remember. Like a sequence or anything of things, and you give it a visual sequence instead of just words. And you see, when you think about sequences of words, it's in your brain, it's completely void, right? It's like in my brain, it's basically just blackness, where I'm pulling nothing out of. And these are the things I've been forced to memorize. And it's unconscious. I'm trying to pull something out of my subconscious, because I can't do that. It's very hard. But if you visualize it, if you give it a visual property and associate it with something in your subconscious, then it just pops in. It just pops into your mind. That's like, oh yeah, So that rabbit, looks pretty much like E equals MC squared, because the E is the head, the E is the head, the equals is its body, and the M is its legs, and squared is its tail, for instance. In your head that might not make any sense, or it might make complete sense, and you go, oh yeah. And anyway, E equals MC squares is not that hard of a thing to remember, but that's besides the point. And it's the thing I just brought up anyway. What am I saying? Anyway, so that's, visual aids, and that's why visual association is so important. And it is generally a part of the conscious thinking and if you think about it thing. And so I turned my head to the left and I looked, at this place where I said it was a concrete jungle, and I said it was, all these negative things. And I looked, and I was like, wait a minute, what's over there? So I looked over there after I did all this, rescheduling of my sleep patterns, and I thought there's probably more to life than just playing video games on a computer, which I'm finding there is more to be than that. And I look and I go, wow, I walk outside my door, which is just looking to the left, because it's really, in my mind, that's my perspective. I don't see the walls of my house, I don't see, when I look to the left, in my mind, I see the route that I take on a day-to-day basis of my walk, equivalent to an exercise, because it's pretty long, where it's just filled with, trees, it's filled with animals and wildlife, to a degree wildlife, because in Turkey, feral dogs, so frequent, can be considered wildlife, and cats. So I look out the door, and I look through the walls, in my mind, because there are no walls, it's just in my mind. When I turn to the left, it's just trees next to a nicely paved road, nice concrete road, and there are trees, lush green trees, and when the sun shines, because it does shine in Turkey, very, very much so, when it shines onto parts of the trees, it looks so beautiful, and it's a really nice walk, and there's hillocks on the side, just next to the trees, with lush green grass, and animal shit somewhere, which adds to the experience, in my opinion. And just in the middle of there's some shit, and then you go, oh, that's pretty nice. And there's like trickles of brown leaves, dried up leaves from the trees, shedded leaves on the ground, and it's so beautiful. And you look and you walk by it and you go, yeah. And I went by it, and I thought to myself, Jesus fucking Christ, it was right here. It was right beside me. It was right next to me, and I was missing it. That's incredible. I can't believe it. And that little, I gained my exercise back, because I thought about it. I just thought about the situation I was in, and I was like, no way, this can't be. All I hear is fucking trees outside of my window. How can there not be a place that could be tantamount to the campus? And if you put the pieces together, it wouldn't as a whole be equivalent to the campus, but individually parts could make up the campus. You don't. And then, okay, so you go past the trees, and at that point, it's just a walk. It's just an exercise for me. So I get all the good positive vibes from the trees, and I'm walking nice, and I'm paced. It takes about 15 minutes to cross the trees anyway, to cross the whole area, to go into like a suburban area where it's just buildings and stuff. And there are no trees. It's just pavements, and there's buildings, and there's security cubicles and cars. But and I'm on my walk there, and it doesn't take away from the experience, because I just had the experience. And on the campus, it wasn't always, I would get into a mindset of exercise where I would just listen to music, and it would just seep in. It would seep into my subconscious conscience, and I would just go about my business. And then maybe it would pop into my mind that, wait a minute, the campus was much better than this. There were less buildings, and the roads were prettier. There wasn't muck and brown stuff all over the road. Given that it doesn't always have brown stuff on the road. There's been some construction going around on the campus as of late, and that attributes to the brown stuff. But and I look yonder again. I look past the buildings, and I see this very nice green hill. It's really green as you could imagine trees can be. Very green hill of trees, a house in the middle of it, and there's just trees. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I should be looking at. That's what I should be looking at instead of the roads and the buildings. And that magnifies my experience to such heights and such new levels that it makes it almost, dare I say it, even equivalent to my campus experience. And as I talk about this, as I talk about my feelings, which are good, I'm smiling all of the time. And that's what you can do if you just think about it. That's all I really have to say right now on the subject. That's all I can say. Anyway, thanks for listening. And that's really all I have to say for now. Bye bye.